Yeah. Okay. Hold on. There.
Should I say
I've,
got it? Yeah,
oh,
got it. Okay.
why? What do you have to say got it for?
Being recorded.
It is being recorded. That's
Yes,
the kind.
I said got it.
I look like I'm from Ed Sullivan show, huh?
You do.
I guess that's good. I don't know why, but
Hi, Bird.
when you record a podcast, for some reason you have to use a microphone and wear headphones. I think it's just to look more important, though. I don't think it does anything different.
Well, it looks very cool. It looks very old school. I mean, it's like bringing me back to my day.
I think the point is that the sound quality is better. I don't know. I'm not
Your
sure.
sound is very sounds very good. What do you usually use? Just your AirPods or
I just like you. I just
like
talk.
just talk?
Yeah. I don't know. But I got these things to see. I don't know. To try, attempt in the attempts to be a professional.
Good luck with that.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Okay,
Yeah.
along that vein, so I'm starting out a podcast because my followers want me to, but I thought we could kick it off by you explaining what you think it is that I even do for a job. What is this? What am I doing, or what's happening? Any of it? Do we know?
We could go viral at this. They might want us to do a weekly podcast after your viewers
You
see it.
and me? Well, maybe,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. It
But
may
that's
be.
what do you when people say, "What does your daughter do for work?" What do you say nowadays? Like, how do you honestly answer that?
I get this question a lot. So I usually say, I'm not very clear. I'm like behind a cloud thinking about what she does. But I know it's in the healing, mystic, something.
Okay.
That's and I know a little bit about the shaman healing thing. And don't you
Mm-hmm.
do that? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what. Yeah.
But I'll tell you honestly what I tell them.
Yeah.
I might not
That's what.
say it on the podcast, but it's like, basically my daughter is very, very smart. And what I think is she gets engaged with her client and then listens to them a little and then just tells them what they want to hear. Like, yep, you're going to get back with your girlfriend. Yep. And there is no divine intervention
No,
coming that way.
it's just me.
And the cards, not so much. Pretty, but yep, you're going to have a kink or so tomorrow.
You're a skeptic. You're a tarot skeptic.
Well, I don't have a good understanding. I'm not saying I'm a skeptic. I believe that all these people are believing.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, I'm a successful snake oil salesman.
That's it. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the next step would be selling CBD oil.
Oh my gosh. Out of the trunk of my car.
Out of the trunk of your car. Yeah.
You used to you say that as someone who spent a lot of money on different CBD oils, might I add.
Well, just two. But that was when Jim was having his cancer.
Yeah. So
that's why we tried it.
Well, that's okay. So that kind of segues to it. That a lot of people, desperate times call for desperate measures, right? So a lot of people find their connection to spirit because of rough times. A lot of people.
Oh, I get that. Yeah, I get that. I do.
I know. It's interesting. No, I mean, it is honestly, I don't know if you remember this, but in quarantine, I started learning tarot and I didn't quite know how it was working because I was just doing it for fun. And then I would do readings for people, like friends and family. And then they'd come to me next week and be like, oh my gosh, that came true. And that was, or I'd be telling them something and they'd say, that's so interesting. My grandfather used to say that all the time. And I'd be like, I think it's coming from him. Because Mom, you know me better than anyone. I literally don't have a thought in my head. I really don't have an opinion or a thought. So the fact that I would be I don't care. I don't care if someone gets back together with their boyfriend or if they take a job or literally. So that's how I know it's not me. So then when they said it was true, I was like, well, I don't know how this is happening. So I went for training because I thought I was losing my mind.
Well, then you found out you did have some kind of.
Well, I found out we all do. Oh. And that's the cool part. The other part is that, did I ever tell you about the thing with Nana coming to me during a therapy session?
Yeah.
That was just like for me. So when Nana died in 1992, my mother-in-law, or your mother-in-law, my grandmother, on my paternal grandmother, she everybody on dad's side of the family, and even people that weren't, had her come to them. Like everyone was like, I saw her in a dream. She came and talked to me. I talked to her all the time. And I never experienced that. And I was always really upset because I loved her. And I'm like, well, God damn it. Why didn't she come
Yeah.
to me? But I didn't actually believe that that was a thing. And actually, what I said for years is I thought that, especially my father being a proclaimed kind of, I wouldn't say he's atheist, but he's agnostic or whatever. He doesn't really believe in God. I always thought, how cute is it that he thinks God is Nana? I thought that his experiences with God were what he felt like Nana talking to him. I just thought that was how he connected with spirit until the day I was sitting in therapy and I was crying over something, and the sun shifted and went, a light went right through the window and it blinded me, and I was on Zoom with my therapist and I said, that's really weird. I felt like that was my Nana. And she goes, it's not weird. Go back to that. In this moment, I was crying about body issue stuff at the time.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
about it was right after my divorce, about like nobody wanted to date me because of how I looked or something. And she goes, well, what were you saying? That was, why do you know that was your Nana? I said, because I felt when the sun hit me, I remembered her saying, literally what I heard, and it's been years since she's been alive, is if they don't like the way you look, they can go fuck themselves. And I go, and that's what she would have said.
That's
And
what you
so,
just said. Yeah.
she goes, well, then that's her. And even if it's not, doesn't it, is not helpful for your own healing to know that that's her. And I said, yeah.
Yeah.
So from then I kind of leaned it. And then I thought I was losing my mind. I reached out to my pastor. I was trying to figure out, how is this happening? I thought it was just me. I thought it was really important because I was an empath. I thought, but no, that's what I learned from finding the shamanic path, that we all can communicate directly with our ancestors and loved ones that pass in spirit. And it's really comforting. And sometimes they're showing up in ways that we don't even know, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, that I believe in. But I think
Well,
it's interesting because you went through an atheist phase,
yeah.
a long atheist phase, and I don't know when you flipped, but it just suddenly, you were going to church, and going to church was important. And but for years, you poo-pooed the whole thing, and no, 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 there's nothing. So
Yeah.
what precipitated that switch?
Well, I remember when I became atheist. Remember, we were on Christmas Eve. We went to that church in Pewaukee when I was probably like 20.
Yeah,
Uh,
where the blood of Christ was Chardonnay.
that might have been the tipping point for me. It's fucked up.
We had to leave. We were laughing so hard
We
that
did?
we didn't even stay for the end. We just walked right out.
I don't remember that part.
Yeah, I'll never forget it.
Uh,
I tell everybody that story. Yeah, we went to this church on Christmas, and the blood of God shed free. We both looked at each other. It's Chardonnay.
was it a good one? No, it was a bad one.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so that I just remember sitting there with you, and I remember being like, really? And I remember something Auntie Karen had said in New York that summer got in my head, where she was like, naked, dead guy hanging on a cross. That just doesn't make sense to me. I'm too smart for that. And so in that moment, I heard her saying that, and I was like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. And then I spent, I think, the bulk of my 20s thinking religion and spiritual beliefs were for uneducated people. Honestly, that you had to be kind of
A lot of
dumb.
people believe that.
Yeah,
Jim
you had to be
believes it.
kind of dumb. That's
Jim
what I
believes
thought. Mhm.
Yeah.
Until and I continued to believe that until I was 32, 33, and I got pregnant with Radley.
Well,
And
then,
then just that first moment of seeing him on the ultrasound, I felt things in a way I've never felt. And it all of a sudden, it just felt so much bigger than me or anything. And I knew I had to get my shit together for him. And nothing made sense anymore. And then definitely when he was born, it just was like, okay, I met this person before, I'm here. Like now what I know from my training is a soul's remembrance. When something, so a person you've never met, even a baby you're having, feels so familiar that
yeah,
I think the act of being pregnant, and you've had two kids, but like, and having that baby too, it's just, how can there not be something more? It's miraculous, right?
absolutely. It is a miracle. It's a miracle. Yeah. And I think a lot of people have your experience where they switch when they becoming a parent is like, God, I gotta get my shit together because I got this little person that's totally dependent on me, totally. for everything.
Yeah.
I need all the help I can get. So you're going to go to you, or you're going to go to, back to church, or all of
Yeah.
these things, because you're going to use all the resources you have. That's what I think.
I agree. I feel like you and dad had your shit together way more when you got pregnant. I mean, I know you were 27 and I was 33, but I just feel like from my, I always just assumed you guys just had it, like it was that having me wasn't that scary for you because you guys had Nana and Papa and you had, or
My
was
parents,
it still?
I was also a nurse too. So being pregnant was, it's the medical thing that scares people. It's the medical thing that scares new moms or first time
Mm.
pregnancy. And I didn't have any of that. God, I delivered more babies than most people ever see. So, I mean, I understood the process.
Yeah.
And we were both had good jobs and stable and a new house. And, we were pretty together. We had everything together. So it was time.
Yeah. I think so. When I was a baby, I think it went pretty easy for you, right? It was the postpartum depression with Andy is what made it tougher for everything, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I don't think I had that very bad. It's
You
just tough
don't?
for me because here's the thing. And if you had a second one, you'd know this. But you were two, and you and I were just, we did everything. Our days were just, Steve was working. I was working, but I was home most of the time because, you only had a babysitter for a couple hours next door. Um, and so you went shopping. You just did all my normal things. Well, this baby comes along, and our schedule is screwed up. I
Yeah.
mean, I couldn't really go back to that exercise class. Remember, I used to take early clue because he was a baby, and to take two kids, and he was a baby. He didn't talk. He didn't do anything except
Yeah.
poop and piddle. And I mean, you could talk. You talk to people. That was the thing, just adjusting. And oh my God! Now when he got to be two and you were four, then life was good. But I'm not a baby person. Number one, I'm
Yeah.
really not that fond of babies.
Why? What don't you like? Either just Radley. What don't you like about them?
They're just nothing. They are nothing. They are just they're like having a puppy. They don't talk. I mean, they do the same thing a puppy does.
Yeah.
Poop, needs to go for a little walk. Has to eat at certain intervals and the same time
Yeah.
every day. Otherwise, they're not very entertaining. I mean, they pass gas and you're thrilled because that looks like a smile. No,
Go lay down.
I mean, if you pass gas today, smile.
No,
People would not be, oh my God, like she did.
mother. Oh my gosh.
Well, that's true.
I know. You've always
Until
said
you
you're
get
not.
to,
You've always said you're not a kid person
oh no, I'm just not a baby person. I
and
like,
little kids.
I don't like, well, I like toddlers.
You hate
I meant,
teenagers.
I did not like teenagers. I did not like middle schoolers. So there's a very small window. But I did work, 15 years in pediatric burns. So I certainly had to deal with a lot of kids at all ages. So, but I was lucky to have an LPN who loved babies. So Carolyn took all the
She
babies.
did all the babies.
We didn't have to do anything with the babies because it's all hers.
How much do you think the way we parent has to do with the way our moms parent?
I think it goes both ways. I have friends who the way they were parented, they want nothing to do with it. They totally changed it and they're doing a whole different thing because of the way they were parented. For
Yeah.
me, I don't know. I think I kind of did it the same way my mom parented.
I think it's interesting. I think you and me and grandma are all very similar, and grandma and me in a lot of ways. But I think the times have just been so different.
Each time, for each generation.
Yeah, like honestly, I don't know if you are aware, but the baby boomer parents, like you get a bad rap because times were you did not know. I'll be the one to tell you because times were very different. You guys were busy. Children were supposed to just go be seen and not heard. You had your cocktail hour. You did whatever you were doing. You didn't do everything with us. We were outside playing or we were told to go. Like dad would say, go take a long walk off a short pier and like go. So it was different versus now we're supposed to nurture and all of us parents nowadays, and we've got this whole attachment thing is like prevalent. We know more, but I just think it was different, don't you? Or did it not feel like that when you were parenting? We all make fun of you for just putting us outside while you all drank. All boomer parents, yes. You don't know this.
Well, I'm telling you, but my parents, oh my God, my parents all the time. We were at that neighborhood. We had Joan and Phil, Shirley and Phil, my mom and dad. So those three couples, they sat and drank, and we were just told to go outside.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's how I feel
then
too.
we'd sit and listen because they'd tell dirty jokes at certain times. And if they were inside in the winter, one guy in particular, Dick Offdahl, would go, "Are the kids asleep? Are the kids asleep?" And of course, I was wide awake listening to these jokes that, quite frankly, I couldn't understand at all. Not at all.
The greatest generation, my ass. They were just sitting around telling dirty jokes and drinking.
That's what they did. That was their
Yeah,
social life because
that's
nobody went out. There wasn't that much money. Nobody had that much money. We didn't
yeah,
go out to dinner. We didn't go on vacations. We didn't do any of that. We didn't go out for breakfast. We did not do any of that.
yeah.
But one thing, and you probably had more than, but in my generation, we had total freedom. We would leave in the summer after breakfast and not come home till the streetlights came on. Literally, they had no idea where we were, and we were in all kinds of crazy places. Around Wilson Street, there was a woods with terrible little streams and a lot of opportunity to be dead. I mean,
I know.
seriously.
That's
And
why, yeah.
I rode my bike from Wilson Street to Lake Higanza to my grandma's house down that highway.
That's like 15 miles in the country.
By
That's not
myself.
safe. Yeah.
By myself. And they didn't even care. Like, bye.
What it's well, I think it was funny because when Bradley was little, we used to kind of argue about this that I was being too overprotective, and you'd say when I was little, we all did, and I was like, and some of you died. They're literally some
Well,
of you are
literally.
not here. It's not funny, but it is. Or like some of you had massive, like there were a lot of kids in your hometown. Because when I was like talking about all the organic food and all those stuff, and you were like, we ate everything, we swam in all the chemicals, and we were fine. I'm like, no, some of you had like deformities and very bad.
I don't know. I never heard of them, but I mean, the lake, that green, that was sewage. And we had a broom down there, and we would just sweep an opening, a big circle, and we'd all jump in and just like keep going like this, treading water so that but if you had a cut on your hand or foot and you went in the lake, healed immediately.
I know.
It's
weird.
It was like a reborn again bath.
Well, do you know now they know what that is? Because that same Lake Higanza is no longer green like that. It's because they've solved the problem. What it was is in the 50s they started using chemicals on the farm fields, and it's a watershed. It all ran into the lake, and so that it made all that algae and stuff. And now they know, so they limited it. But you guys were basically mutants.
And the farm chemicals that my dad was exposed to all of his life caused all of his Parkinson's.
Did they? Yeah, that's
absolutely. And he had a skin cancer. Like you weren't even born. I don't.
Oh, I remember on his hand. I remember.
Yeah, his hand. That was from welding for the city of Stoughton. He did welding, and I researched a whole bunch of articles that said welders would get that kind of skin cancer.
That's so interesting.
So his lifestyle, the chemicals they used back then were. Plus the fact he almost died when he fell in the silo. He really shouldn't have lived to have either one of us.
Yeah. Falling in a silo. I remember Grandpa telling me that is like a very scary way because the fumes get you as you're sinking.
Yeah. Yeah. You just die. I don't know who saw him, and I don't remember how he got out, but you should have been dead.
A lot of near-death experiences. Wasn't his time. So it's interesting. So as much as we bitch, and I'm like on the cusp of a millennial / Gen X, I probably identify with millennial more than anything, but
what age group are they?
So because I'm born in October of 79, it's the cutoff is 1980, so they call it an exennial because I really am kind of like both. I'm a weird hybrid, but you're a solidly baby boomer. And as much as we bitch about how bad and neglectful. So the story is that baby boomers were so spoiled for the first generation to be so spoiled that like you kind of were more neglectful as parents. But it's interesting because your parents really, you were not doing anything any different than your parents did. You just had more means probably.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
So like
definitely.
there's that's the whole thing, and the shamanism teaches you like we're all here clearing imprints of things that stick with us as a people, but like pe- people really don't change. So the times really didn't change as much as we think they did.
No, but I think Radley's generation, anybody who grew up during computer, kind of computers were just coming into play,
Mhm.
but we didn't have the tracking. My God, I am appalled watching the news to see that they're putting trackers on
Life
these little kids,
360.
their lunchbox, and they know
Yeah.
every step they take all day. That is lack of privacy. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
hold on. Can we go back to we had
No,
do you
no,
remember
no.
when I was you would have done it, then they use Life
I
360
wouldn't have
now.
done it.
You had a system in the 90s where I had a pager and a
Oh yeah,
cell
you
phone.
had pagers.
You would page me and I had to call you at home on the landline with a caller ID from wherever I was so that the name
I
would
did
show
do
up.
that, but that was for safety.
That's the same thing as what they
No, this is
say.
being nosy. This is a parent, a helicopter parent, wanting to know every step of their kid every day.
I
I
guess.
mean, I just think that's terrible.
Well,
I
it's
wouldn't
probably
want to watch you every day. I don't want to sit here and watch. Oh, look at she's in algebra now. I mean,
yeah.
woohoo!
Grandma would have done that. Remember
She's in the
grandma? Grandma
bathroom.
used to track our flights on the internet. Anytime we
Yeah,
flew anywhere, she would watch the dot.
I always had to
Grandma
get
would have.
my flight numbers. Yeah.
It's because of fear. It's imprints of it's a generational trauma of being afraid of something bad happening to your kid that makes us. It's our own fear that does that, right?
I'm even anti-baby monitors. I think baby monitors, they are just calling for someone to hack in and come in and steal your baby.
Nobody's
And
gonna. I
yes,
guess.
they
I mean,
do.
I don't
Yes, you
know.
don't know. You don't watch Criminal Minds,
I don't.
obviously.
I don't
Well,
want to.
I mean, they can come in and they hack into that baby monitor, and the mom goes to check and there's an empty crib.
Well, okay, I did have a baby monitor in the beginning. I was very nervous. What I did not do is they now sell because people I was very afraid of SIDS when Radley was a baby, I'll be honest. I was overly afraid of SIDS. But in this first they have monitors that you can put down um like on a pad and heart monitors to see the second they stop breathing. But I know, but
Um,
I did not get it only because what I read in the reviews is that it was almost worse because it would just short out and you would almost have a heart attack thinking they were dead and you'd go in
thinking
and
they were.
wake up a perfectly healthy sleeping baby for no reason and traumatize it. But yeah, I know. The people got to remember if there's an industry that can profit off of it, they're going to amp up the fear a lot. That's why I don't watch any of that shit and I just stay away from it, honestly.
Well, and why? For decades, and probably just until maybe 10 years ago. I mean, both you and Andy on your stomach all the time. When you put them in the crib, they were on
Mm.
their stomach. And if you rolled over, you had all kinds of hanging mobiles there and things going on, and padded side rails and a little pillow. Now, babies, they have to be on their backs
Because they
and
were
nothing at all in there.
I know, Mom, but they were suffocating themselves in those pillows and paddings.
I never heard anybody be
It
suffocated.
doesn't mean it wasn't
And
true.
and no, and tummy time. So we got all these kids growing up with weird heads because,
Their heads
because
are fine. Radley,
they're on their back.
I know. They wanted Rad to wear a helmet because of
I
that. And do you
remember
remember?
that.
And I said, absolutely not, because he was colicky. And I was like, no, I would rather have him grow up with a fucking slanted head than have to deal with a colicky baby that has to wear a helmet. And he was always so hot. They
I
said,
know.
well, remember that doctor got so mad at me? And I said, here's how I know that it's bullshit. Have you ever seen an adult walking around with a flat head in the back? And she was like, well, I go, no, it's not a
No,
thing. And she
I've
said,
never
well,
seen it.
he might not be, as intelligent or smart, or he might have trouble with brain development. So his learning won't be, it could,
No, it's
and I
bullshit.
said, well, then he can be dumb, but I'm not going to deal with a baby.
You are your mother's daughter.
It was ridiculous. I don't care. Then he's
There
not
has
going to
a
be
slanted head, and he can be dumb. I don't want
he's
him to
not
be.
going to be an astrophysicist. Fine. But I'm not going to put a fucking, do you remember how colicky he was? Are you kidding me? I was barely getting through each day. I was not going to put a helmet on him.
No, no,
He,
no.
I was scared of him
I
even
think right
then.
now raising a kid, Jim's nephew, they just had a little girl, their first baby, and a baby shower, and the things that
I
they
know.
had, all these
You don't need any of it.
monitors and all this stuff and swaddling, and you can't. Remember that little bouncy thing that Rad had in the
Yeah.
doorway? Can't have those anymore.
Why?
Way dangerous. They're hard on their joints. So
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
have you seen a 5-year-old with a knee replacement? I've never had it my whole entire life. I've never seen something. And my grandson is a perfect picture of this. He
Yeah.
can run as fast as anybody.
Yeah, when he
He
wants to.
jumped all the time in that jumpy.
I know he did. I
I
know.
mean, stop it, people.
Those were hard to find even when he was little. I think they're phasing them out. I think you weren't. I wasn't supposed to either, but I was like, what?
But
I
that's
searched
too
for it.
bad because
I
that's
know.
one of the best things.
Yeah, that was fun. I don't know. It's so interesting. I think back. So how much, like, by the time grandma was older, like, and I was around, she didn't remember. I feel like I didn't hear much of her childhood. Like, I heard what I heard, but it felt so fake and filtered. Like, what do you think her childhood was really like? And her,
I think she had a really, really good child, but she just never believed it. Oh, her dad was an alcoholic. Okay, I don't know much about that, but it must have been a terrible time.
yeah,
She didn't tell me that until I was like 25. I had no idea because when he was already sober. He never had a drink in my lifetime.
yeah.
So, I mean, I didn't know, but then she told me. And then she had that cross eye, which made her think she wasn't very pretty. She has terrible, terrible self-esteem. The
She
lowest.
didn't. When did she get it fixed? I don't remember her ever having
She
cross
did.
eyes.
She did. She had surgery
Oh,
finally.
how old was she then?
When I was probably in my 20s.
But
Before
okay, not to be weird, but is she? Grandpa was like the most handsome, and I like, but how did like I watch so many people who have low self worth struggle with relationships. I don't mean to be mean, but how did she? If she was that much of a pity party, how did she even land Grandpa? Do you know
well,
what I
because
mean?
it was pretty, but
Yeah, she was.
it was her that I don't know, but he had Winifred that she always thought that she was 89 and she's still talking about Winifred.
I know.
And
What
it's just my dad would just shake his head. It's like, really? Do I have to go
whatever
through it?
happened to Winnie? I always wanted to ask about.
I mean, she came to a lot of class reunions until they have a
And
class.
grandma still talked about it. So did she live in town? Wasn't it
Yeah,
just some girl that he dated at the same time as grandma way before they got married? Like,
no, it was just Winifred. I don't think he ever
no, I know.
dated her.
Oh,
No, I don't think so. I don't know. But I know that my grandma and May and Grandpa Ed hated my dad.
yeah.
Hated him because my dad was a party guy and he had this group of guys, a really nice group of guys. But they went out to the bar, that one on Highway 51. I can't remember the name. And so he'd go take my mom out, and then he'd drop her off at 9 because he wanted to go out with the guys and that. And then as the years went on, my mother always said they loved my dad, and my mother would, when she get mad at him, I would leave, but I have no place to go because my mom and dad like you best.
She was such a pity party. I love
She
grandma.
was terrible.
I know.
She had terrible self-esteem. I mean, I maybe that's why I'm a princess, because I had to turn that around and I will not let myself go there. But whenever she got dressed up to go somewhere or do anything, do I look all right? Do I look all right? And I'd go, and then my dad would go, stop, just say yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, every day, do you have to go through that?
Yeah, she was. So, okay, so when I did my directions, like the shamanism training,
Yeah.
one of the parts, so there's one whole direction that we work on ancestral imprints. Okay, did I tell you about this?
No.
So, what it is everybody, what I believe and what ancient shaman believed is that we all choose to be born of the parents we're born of, like, based on the imprints or trauma that we have in our soul from past lives. And I don't know why Junie's crying. And so
she hears me, but she can't see me.
I know she loves Nana. Yeah. So we choose to be born in the family we're born of, because when you incarnate in this body, you take on the imprints or trauma that are in your DNA of your people. So if you think
Oh,
about your family, every family um, all has common hooks or themes that plague us. So I worked on your side of the family's stuff because the crow stuff I don't feel like really. It's just not my stuff. I don't feel as connected to it, honestly. The things that I felt like were holding me back in my life, I would say at the beginning I didn't know which side it was,
well,
but
yeah,
as I did the
couldn't.
work, so the things I knew, I have my notebook. I can tell you exactly what they were. The way I wrote it down for me. Oh, I guess I don't. Oh no, here it is. I got it. Um, because we really got to think about it. It's like what's bugging you? What's bugging you the most in your life? Well, what would you say if you said what are the three like things do you think hooks that bug you the most in your life? Do you know what I
that,
mean by
that
hooks?
bugged me in the past.
No, just like things in your life, common themes that kind of stop you from moving forward in life or frustrate you about yourself or
I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I don't think I had any. Would that be wrong?
no. No, I mean, no, whatever.
I, I,
That's an in itself. But okay, I well, okay, here's what I did mine on. I had one that was definitely uh not knowing. Oh no, here's what I wrote it down. Rejection. Feeling like people that I want in my life don't, especially romantic partners, don't want to
okay.
be in my life. That was one of mine. And then I had one about like abandonment, just feeling like nobody shows up for me. You know, I always felt like that with you and Jared and Andy and everyone. That's kind of a theme for me, right? Like always, it's a victim mentality, but just feeling like abandonment, like nobody. And then the last one I had was about my weight, body, and body image. Those were my hooks. But this isn't what we did it on. Okay, well, the ancestral stuff. Well, so that's what I worked on in shamanism. Like I cleared all those issues by doing this work. You know what I mean?
Did you
Because
really?
yeah, because think about it. Old me, those were problems for me, and they're not anymore, right?
That's good. That's
Like
good.
my body is the same, but I feel differently about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of
But
sense.
But a lot of these hooks, oh, I know what the hooks were. Okay, here's what they were. The ancestral ones.
Uh-oh.
Here's the three I worked on for our family. Needing someone to take care of me.
What is
Especially women feeling like nobody's doing enough to take care of them.
really?
You don't see that as a theme in our family?
No. Explain to me. Like, give me an example.
You're like your face. You just referred to yourself as a princess.
Oh, well, no, but still explain to me. Give me an example of that.
Um, grandma feeling like we don't call her enough so we must not care about her, or
Oh, yeah.
you feeling like if we're not doing something we don't, nobody's giving you enough support, nobody, like my parents just died, you're not being understanding of, you know what I mean, like just
Yeah, yeah.
nobody's
Okay,
doing
I get
enough
it. I
to
get
care for you,
it. Okay. Yeah.
or being
That's a
sad
good.
because the holidays aren't the same for you anymore even though now you have grandchildren, you could, you know,
Yeah.
it's wanting everyone to take care, and I'm the same way. I
Yeah, that
wanted
is
Jared
true.
to do everything for I want Jared to do everything for me, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of why a lot of our partners kind of echo the whole nothing's ever enough for you. I think we've all heard that. You, me, and
Yeah.
grandma all heard that.
Yeah. I
I
think
don't
so
know
too.
about grandma and May, but okay, and then
Oh, she
definitely
was definitely that way because
was she?
she would, and my mother would get so mad at her because I every time, not every time, but a lot, she would corner me and say, "You don't do enough for your mother. You've got to do this. You've got to do that."
Yeah.
And
And then you guilt the other ones in the
and then I
family.
was like, I look at my mom, and mom is like, "No, I don't know why she's saying that," but I mean, that's how she felt, that I never did enough.
Right.
And
Exactly.
you're looking at a kid who was maybe only home 6 hours a day. I mean, yeah, especially in high school, I had to be at school at 7 for dancers for an hour. I went to work at the store afterwards. I didn't get home till 9. With Norwegian dances, I was traveling in the evenings and
Yeah.
weekends. And I mean, no one was busier than me. I didn't know
Yeah.
what she expected.
Yeah, I think it's so I think a lot of it had to do with Well, I think that's a whole, like, there's an imprint of the mother being a perfectionist and putting it on your daughter too. And you don't
Yeah.
do it to the boys,
No,
in the same
Jerry had
way.
no expectations. No
But
expectations for him.
I find myself doing that with Bradley, and I have to stop myself a lot because sometimes just good enough is fine. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to, not everyone has to be. And really, the times I'm yelling at him the most about the house being disgusting is I'm disgusted with myself that I let it get like that. It's not the 9-year-old's fault,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's the self-awareness to be able to be like, oh, I'm just doing this because, and we all, our mothers all did it to us. How many times you probably got screamed at for things not being good enough in the house?
Well, the only thing really, and this, I still do this, and Jim just gets crazy. I tend to like, especially in school, like almost all the time. What I wore on Monday, I put in the chair. What I wore on Tuesday, I put on top of Monday. What I wore on Wednesday, I put on top of
You
Tuesday.
do?
I stacked. I did. And then on the weekends, she would make me put it all away. But I find myself, one day I came home and Jim had 7 pairs of shoes. I think you've seen that picture on Facebook, on the bedroom floor, looking like they're marching over to my bed. He lined up 7 pairs of shoes that were all out in the living room.
But that's okay. It's funny though, but we find partners
Well,
that
it
are
bothers
picky.
him terribly.
I know, but it's because we find partners that have the same neuroses as our parents. Like grandma, that would have driven her nuts too, I'm sure.
Well, I'm sure, but well, it did. It just stacking my clothes
Yeah.
was a nightmare. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Jim's very OCD. I mean, we had that cleaning lady on a Friday, and Saturday Joni downstairs just laughs because
I know.
he's vacuuming again, and
But so was grandma. Like we find people like our
yeah, maybe so.
we continue to play out those like Jared and you are a lot alike in a lot of ways. You both have the
Yeah.
Aries energies of being hyper critical about like you guys got on me about the same stuff.
Yes, we did. Yes.
And you both loved me very much, but just it was just like, oh, it was hard.
Well, I think we were trying to be helpful, but that
Yes.
wasn't helpful at the time.
No, I know. Okay, here was the thing. I found the actual list. The three hooks I ended up doing them on for our family were an abuse an enabler dynamic, and it was specifically women seem very smart, articulate women who seem to find partners that had
Oh.
that were somewhat emotionally abusive, if not other things.
Oh, like your dad.
Well, or even like, grandma kind of lucked out with grandpa, but I think grandma and May got into a similar dynamic. You
Well,
know,
she was in an abusive relationship though with an alcoholic husband. Wouldn't
yes.
that
And then,
be?
yeah, and then Auntie Judy kind of did that, right? Like, so there's layers of it. And then the alcohol thing is a different topic, but also we all, there's a lot of alcohol imprints having to do with like,
Yeah.
difficult relationships with alcohol on all ends. And then the third one was abandonment wounds. So abandonment wounds were they manifest in different ways, but for me it was like I was so afraid something was going to happen to Radley that, or you remember I used to say if anything ever happened to you I would just go drink myself to death or crawl in your bed and never leave. Like honestly, and you guys remember, don't you remember being a little
Yeah.
worried that if anything
Yeah.
happened, like when I was in my 20s, that I wouldn't be okay if something happened to you kind of knew
Well,
that.
you were worrisome in your 20s.
Yeah, and now and then when Rad was born, same thing. I was like, if anything happens to him, I want to get a pack of Marlboro menthol lights. I'm gonna go to a bar and I'm just gonna drink myself to death. And I don't feel that way anymore. But I think Grandma definitely had those abandoned wounds. That's why she was had a hard time with us not being there or not calling or not seeing her or
Well, and I think she had abandonment because Judy's 13 years younger. So my mother was in high school when she was born. Well,
yes,
and she had to stay home and babysit because grandma and grandpa were at the country club almost every weekend night.
yeah.
And so I think that's abandonment on another, angle.
Yes, that is actually, it's funny you said that because that's where so that and then that's where like a lot of that stuff came up for me. And also like there's a whole thing about physical appearance in there too. So I think I ended up doing them on I think I did abandonment, abuse. And then physical appearance, I changed it. I didn't do alcohol because the whole physical appearance thing is such a big thing for our family. It's imprints of having to look perfect as a woman, having to look whatever your idea of perfect is. We all kind of had different ideas, but
Yeah, definitely. My mother, definitely. Oh my goodness. Just always wanting to know, did she look okay with this? But she did dress. I mean, very, very. I mean, she wore pantyhose every day. That's
she did.
ridiculous.
She had
Ridiculous.
the big Aquanet hairspray. Well, Grandma May always looked perfect too. She had her little
She
pink
did. Little
shoes and
skirts and cute little flowered shoes. And yes, perfect. Yes.
yeah.
Perfect hair.
I mean, it's an imprint, but so what was interesting, so what we do in this work, when you're doing the directions, you journey. So journeying in the shamanic tradition is just going kind of into a luminous awareness place, kind of like a meditation.
Mhm.
But you're going into the lower world, which is like a protected place basically, so we're taught how to see past lives. Okay, so we can journey anyone's past lives. So for this
Really?
part, for this part of the work, we went to look at the originating ancestor in our family tree that caused this hook for our family for each one of
Who
them.
was it?
Do you want to know? Okay, I'll
Yeah.
tell you for each one. So the abandonment issues was really interesting because I saw this ancestor who a Grandma May's family, was British, and they came over in the 1600s. I looked this all up after because I was like, what? They came over on a ship like
Yeah.
they were not on the Mayflower, but it was only like 20 years after the Mayflower. Like they were like early pilgrims, and then they were in I think Massachusetts or somewhere over there. But so the actual matriarch that came over on that family, what I saw was her and her husband on the ship. So when they're coming across on this ship from England, he has to work on the ship, and then she's kind of down below with the children, and she had three babies. So like the new one was just like a newborn, and then maybe like one and two, or they were all under three. And very early on in the voyage, I had that the youngest one died. I'm reading my notes because I don't really remember this anymore. Because we use these to come up and understand and kind of heal it. And
Oh,
I
okay.
and what I wrote down is she had two other girls, an 18-month-old and maybe a 3-year-old. She was so sad that the one died, and sure the other two were going to die, that she neglected them. Because she was so stuck in her own grief. And the dad was busy working. He was really sad he couldn't help them, but the girls barely got anything to eat, not very many hugs or love. It wasn't like that before they left, because she probably had like postpartum, and then she lost the baby. And so she was in this place of like, everyone, they're just going to die anyway. Like, and so she just kind of mentally checked out as a flight or fight response to get her through it. And so that carried forward this kind of like, as a mother, when things are stressful, going to a mental place of kind of like checking out mentally just to get through it because you're so afraid of losing
Mhm.
the.
Okay.
Does that resonate?
Well, yeah, because you're talking about the Howland side of the family.
Yeah. And that's all of us.
And the Howlands, I don't know much. My great grandmother, Howland, I knew she died when I was 16. So I remember her well and her stories. But she had a twin who died,
Hmm.
I believe, at birth.
So they have abandonment themes right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
And then, and then I believe that my grandma and Dorothy, I think they also had a sibling that died.
Yeah. So they would
And
have.
it was only two of the two girls left.
That's
Yeah.
really common too. And usually that is really common to have those themes of loss and abandonment over and over and over in generations. It dissipates as it gets farther. And it was far enough down the line with us that I think by the time it got to us, we still had the panic of losing a baby. I had the panic of losing a baby.
I never had that panic.
Grandma did, definitely, because she talked about it with me when Radley was little, but she was always terrified something was going to happen to all of us.
She was terrified raising
Mhm.
Jerry. Terrified.
Yeah.
She never had a brother. I mean, that's why he turned out the way he did, I guess. She thinks she failed. She really feels that she failed because she understands girls, but she had no understanding of that little boy.
Of boys. She had her cousin John, though. I mean, like, I know. I think she was just so scared to get it wrong. That resonates for me. I think um, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just hard, but I think that abandonment stuff, So that was the one I saw in that. The abuse thing was interesting. I saw like during what war was it? I'm so bad at history. That's why I know this stuff's real
And
because I know nothing about history. So I went and looked this all up later. I'm like, oh, that was a thing. So I think it was. Don't make fun of me that I don't know this. Was it the Civil War? Like when the British and the Americans fought for America to become free, like the
yeah,
1776 or whatever that
yeah,
was.
yeah.
So we had an ancestor that was settled again, Howland line, that British.
Okay.
Um, and they he was a colonial soldier fighting for the Americans. So what was interesting is so it was like the mom and the dad and they had little kids and then we're going to fight this war for our freedom, right? To liberate ourselves as Americans. And so he fought in it. And seeing it from I was in his shoes from this it, I know we all know about that war, but like they were literally fighting on our own soil
Yeah.
in the neighborhoods we live in. And so he was just terrified. Like it was like not even a choice to fight for these men. It was like I have to keep my family alive. Like we because British soldiers were just coming in. So um he had like this great grandfather figure of ours was just he got so messed up from that war and the trauma. He was convinced they were all going to die. Like there were so many times during battle that he was like, "There's no way we all live through this." And then they're off in a battlefield somewhere, and they're terrified that their home's going to get burnt to the ground and everyone killed in it by other soldiers. You know what I mean? So like the trauma from that war ended. He got to go home and actually be with his family. Everyone was okay, but he had such bad PTSD from that. Um, that he just was never okay. And I wrote like he literally just like drank and terrorized his family, and was abusive and like and was awful to his wife.
So how do
And
these
kids
things
saw.
come to you? Do you see something in your head, or does it
Yeah.
is it in your mind? What
I
what
can journey and like go, it's almost like a dream. So I can journey. And that's what we learn how to do through clearing our own stuff and shamanism and like to just see these past, like Jackie did on you. And
yeah.
I see it like a movie just play out. And then we did the exercise of stepping into those ancestors' shoes and then feeling, what it felt like and letting go of the trauma and then bringing in the gifts. Cause each one of these
Could you
brought
do
gifts.
that?
I did all this work. So each one of us brings in gifts too. But so in that one, it was like the gift in that is perseverance, right?
Yeah.
We come from a people that can fight to protect ourselves and to, and that's really beautiful. And then getting rid of the icky parts about it. So that one was just interesting. And that's where the alcohol thing came into play because alcohol is used, I think in our family, it's been used to numb when life has been so hard, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. So that was really interesting, but it set the precedent of these women dealing with kind of really icky behavior from men. But you kind of understand why that great grandmother figure would have too, because she was holding space for what he had been through, and it was like he wasn't a bad person.
Absolutely.
But he was
Yeah.
terrorizing his own family, and all because he loved them so much. It's backwards, but you know how it go.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
It is
Yeah.
very interesting. Okay, and then the last one was more recent. So the physical appearance thing. I think grandma Judy being born when she was 14 was such a big, so we knew it was a big deal because she kind of alluded to that a little, but I think it was a much bigger deal than she realized. And for, I think Grandpa Ed's abuse was just worse than anyone realized when he drank.
Yeah, she never spoke about it, but it had to be there because
Uh-huh.
it had to be a reason that they sent him back in that day to a
Yes.
facility.
They sent him away. I know. I got that it was a lot worse than we realized, but in her mind, she was 14 when Judy was born. And then, and then what I saw is like when Judy and Mary Alice got a little bit older, his so she was I think grandma was the brunt of his abuse, and grandma and May just kind of had to check out because of that other imprint. She just was kind of like gone
Yeah,
mentally
that
even though
would
she
make
was
sense.
there.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't know them enough to know any of this. Is just what I saw from journeying. And that when Judy was born and then Mary Alice, the other cousin who's around Judy's age, grandma's whole thing was always like they were so much prettier, they were always so much smarter. It wasn't that. It was his abuse kind of diverted to them, I think. because grandma was getting older and they were younger. And so she, even though it was abuse, she saw it as attention and love. And I think that's when everything intervened and then he got sent away and whatever after Judy and them were little. So that's the way I saw it. But in grandma's mind, she never really understood that it was abuse. Um, so it was what I wrote is like that's why she always thought she wasn't as pretty or as good. Um, it really was because she didn't understand the situation she was in because she was too little. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah. She couldn't go to college because the war
mhm.
came, then Judy goes to UW Madison. And so that she always thought and my mother was very, very smart. She was a smart
Yes,
lady, but she never felt like she was smart.
because well, I think she
Judy
had
got the education and she didn't get that.
yeah, I think she had soul loss from the whole like just attention completely diverting off her to Judy, you know, and then I think everything after that was just an echo of it. Basically, is the way that
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
and if we were, I mean, I don't ever do it on anyone without their permission, so I wouldn't at this point. But and it wouldn't be helpful to our healing, so it doesn't matter. But I bet if you journeyed grandma's past lives, she had some with similar imprints, and that's why she chose this family because we choose to experience
The
families
same
with similar,
thing.
yeah, until we heal it.
Why don't we learn
We
from our
do.
past
Well, and we
life
do.
and
So
then
like
go to a better family?
well, we do. So, like in this life, I healed this. Like we all healed this stuff. So, at the same time, I was doing this work. When we do this, when anyone does this work, you clear it for your entire family line, 7 generations forward and back. So,
Really?
as I was clearing that, I think we were at a point that we weren't talking, or we weren't talking as much. And it's interesting because even when you and I were not talking for a year and a half, and I was working on healing, like you still felt you kind of went through your own healing stuff on your own, wouldn't you say? Like you still felt stuff and felt like what I would explain as energy moving, right? Like you were still dealing with shit.
Yes. Yeah. But mostly I was just trying to, I don't know, validate it, I guess, because people would ask, how's your grandson? I don't know. I haven't seen him in a year. And then they'd go, oh my God. And
Yeah.
then I just try to justify it. Well, she's going through a hard time. I don't know. I don't really understand, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, but you said, I think you did, you say that, but I think you were actually on your own. You were looking at stuff. Like, I think you were going through your own stuff. Maybe not as woo woo as me, but like you were thinking about things and I mean, like you showed up as a different person a year and a half later.
Yeah. Yeah. I must have. But maybe that was your doing.
No, it was yours, but we're all interconnected because I'm
So
spiritual enough to believe we're all one energy. But
maybe so. But I still think that whole thing, how I found you, is very, very weird. And I have a lady across the street, another Kathy, who hasn't talked to her daughter for 18 months now. And so
that's how long we were. Yeah.
she
Well, how
said,
did you find me? I don't think I really know. I thought Andy gave you my address.
no, he didn't have your address either.
He did. I did. That's why I was mad at him. I thought he gave it to
Oh,
you.
no. But she came over and I told her what I did. But anyway, no, I went through the white pages,
Yeah.
internet, and very hard to find you. You were buried very, very deep. But I finally found the new address, and I found that address. And on the next Saturday, I had to go to De Pere to Carrie, who reported to me at Humana. Her wedding shower was in De Pere. And I had just found your address, which was De Pere.
Yeah.
So I put it in my phone and I went to the shower.
Mm-hmm.
And then
So that's like 2 hours. Yeah. Away.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I had the address. So after the shower, I sat in my car and pulled up the address. And then I sat there, I bet, for 20 minutes. Then finally, I just put it in my GPS and said, I'll just drive by. So I look at this, and literally I was 7 minutes away from your house.
Yeah.
Now, isn't that weird?
Depends on what you believe. Nothing's
I
weird
think
to me
I
anymore.
was, I
Yeah.
think there was some divine intervention there.
Yeah, it
I'm just
was.
saying, may not have been.
Yeah.
But the beauty of this story is you have a roundabout before you turn into your subdivision.
Yeah.
So the people behind me must have thought I went around that roundabout 17 times,
What?
round and around, and ate up about 5 minutes of my time
Uh,
just going around because I didn't know how far, I didn't have far to go. If I went out of the roundabout, then I would probably have to stop.
yeah.
So then I finally went out of the roundabout, and I just knocked on the door.
That was pretty gutsy of you.
Very good. Well, I'm your
You're
mother.
very brave.
Yeah, well,
I know.
I know. And that's what people tell me. She could have shot you.
I wouldn't have shot you. I wasn't gonna
Oh, they're
shoot
just
you.
saying. They don't know you, but they're just saying. I mean, I said I didn't really know what I'd find on the other side. Maybe she wouldn't let me in. I don't know.
In
But I didn't
hindsight,
even think about that because I really wasn't sure I was going to stop.
I thought you texted Andy or Jim and said if I get arrested, you have to come get or somebody. I thought you told.
Probably something like that.
Well, I was not in a place. Well, because I was working on boundaries, and quite frankly, we had terrible boundaries. We didn't have boundaries before that. I don't think either one of us knew what they were, and that wasn't our fault. But like we were just
Have to have all these boundaries.
well because they keep us safe and healthy. But I know.
My boundaries were not unsafe.
You weren't doing anything wrong, but for me personally, I needed more space. We were so I don't. It wasn't healthy for us to be that close all the time. Like it was just like it was the point where I didn't know my own voice from yours. Like I really didn't.
Oh,
We were best friends. You weren't doing it intentionally to hurt me, but like I I didn't know your hypercritical voice from my hypercritical voice. You know what I mean? Like it was just
yeah.
um and we're two different people. And I needed to understand who I was, and I couldn't do that because our senses of self were so enmeshed in my perspective. I just didn't know who I was.
That's not uncommon in daughters and mothers.
But it's not healthy. Yeah, but it is pretty
Yeah,
common.
it's very common.
You got it. You have to know who you are so you can you didn't have that with your mom. You moved away to
No.
school. You knew you wanted to be a nurse. You knew what
18,
I
I went to, yeah.
but I couldn't buy a couch without having you pick it out. I couldn't do anything without asking you, and it
That's it.
irritated you as much as it did me.
Well, I kind of enjoyed it. But that one incident where you got how many couches and none of them fit in your
That
house.
was not that was
That was
irritating.
that.
So I took this space, and it was both hard, but it was, that was a rough time for me. And then I got that job up in Green Bay, so we moved, and then I got divorced, and like I did that all alone. So that was a lot, and I had been through a lot, and
That was probably healthy for you then. Do you
it
feel
was
like you accomplished something by moving and getting
yes.
and getting divorced all on your own?
Yeah, and I could have never left. I needed it. I know it was a rough year for you. It was a very rough year for me, but it was the best thing. It's just the way it had to happen. I'm glad, but I don't know that I would have felt safe enough to reach out had you not really fought for us. And I know that you did, and I love you for that because it really
Yeah,
it
I
makes
don't
you a
know.
little choked up, but
Yeah, I don't know.
I was too afraid. I didn't know how to do it and keep myself safe because I was so bad at boundaries. So, I mean, I think when I got to the shamanism part about ancestry, I would have, because we learned that you eventually have to bury the hatchet and just be in each other's lives. And so that's,
I figured if it went on really, Radley eventually would find me somehow.
yeah,
If he got older. If
yeah,
it got into his,
he was
if it went for a
okay.
decade.
But yeah, I had to do it I couldn't parent Randley the way I was, and it was the only way for me to heal myself, honestly. So as selfish as it was, I had to. But when you reached out, it was a interesting day. So by that point, I was still working full time in my finance job.
Yeah.
And then on Saturdays, on weekends, I mean, I had no life. I was divorced. So I would just work all day. So I had back-to-back clients on Zoom doing tarot all day Saturdays. And that particular Saturday, that was a time in my career where I was
You
very
were
busy.
sleeping when I got there.
No, I wasn't sleeping.
You were
I was just resting. I was just meditating.
Okay.
But I was very busy, and that particular day I didn't book out, and I was kind of ticked about it. But I now I
Isn't that
know
interesting?
everything has a reason, because if I would have been on Zoom, I literally wouldn't have been able to even answer the door, But so that day I was just sitting on the couch like, well,
And Radley wasn't there, which was a good thing.
he wasn't there. He was with his dad's, yeah. And so
It,
I answered, and then we were able to talk a little, and it was nice. It
yeah,
was a lot of crying on both ends, but it was, I tell a lot of, because a lot of my clients have had these complicated relationships with their mothers, and that's why I wanted to do this interview first, because a lot of people want to hear it. Like, there is a way you can get through it, but you both just kind of have to let go of all your shit so you can just be in each other's lives.
that's right. And my friend that lives across the street, when I told her this story, she went to her daughter and she had gifts for her grandson because one graduated from high school, and
Yeah.
her daughter opened the door and she gave her the gifts for the boys. And then her daughter says, and she said, Kathy said, well, can we come in and can we talk and can we get together? And she said, I'll have to think about it.
Yeah, she's not ready.
Yeah,
I think the best thing I can say as like a daughter having gone through it, if you have friends there, is I think universally every time I hear a story like this from the other side, the daughter wants the mother in your life, they just don't know how to do it. Like, so I think the best thing anyone can do on both sides is like, I love you, but I we have to be in a place where I know no one's going to be critical of anyone, because I think mothers, and your mom did that to you, and it drove you nuts too.
oh, drove me crazy,
She was
really,
very critical of you.
very, everything. Yes, very proud of me, but yeah, I don't know how she could be critical. I don't know. She was always critical.
Yeah, but that's kind of the same way I feel. But then I found myself doing it to Radley too, and that's why I
But
knew
see,
I
I
had
don't
to
think I was
stop.
ever very critical of you.
Mother, you literally, I'll tell you,
You're,
there's not been now you're not, but before,
no,
still, there's not an
I must
opportunity.
have done something through that time too, because I guess I have changed my whole.
Well, yes, but you also, there's not enough, like anytime we're with other people, you at least once have to bring up my weight so that people know that you're not okay with
Okay,
it. You
so
love me, but you're not okay with it.
I'm a little bit of my Aunt Jenny.
Yeah. Okay, so there's that. Little things that stick out to me. Like, remember the time we were at the spa in the waiting room? And we were here in Green Bay. We're at the Kohler Spa
Yeah.
with all those women, and they were like, "What do you do for work?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm a director of finance for a Fortune 500 company." And they were like, "Oh, that's impressive." And
Oh,
you were quiet, and you said, "I still don't know how you got that job."
because you can't handle your finances.
What, mother? Like, but yeah, you
That
are.
was wrong. That was wrong. That was
One
wrong.
time, one time when I asked you to help me with Radley after work when I was working at Perlick, you were like, "Why are you in trouble? Do you have to stay after?" I was a finance leader. I reported to the CFO. I was not in charge. Like you
I know.
always,
It
I
was
don't think
just
you ever understood what I did for
I
work.
didn't understand. No, no. So I should be very proud of you getting to where you were without even getting your bachelor's degree. You just did
Yeah, I
that on.
never finished it.
You
Yeah,
just you just did that all on your own.
I know, but that's the thing. Like,
Well,
why not just?
Ginny's story, because I was with Dave and Pam a few weeks ago, and they were talking about Ginny always, complaining about Allie's weight,
Yeah,
and your weight. She always lumped you together. I am really, and she was
yeah.
concerned. She wasn't being, well, she was being critical.
Oh no, remember when I lost a bunch, she was like, "Ange, I just have to say, I'm really glad you lost all that weight. It wasn't healthy for you." I go, "Jenny, I'm
Yeah,
probably healthier than you, literally."
I know, but that's how she felt.
Yeah.
But David turned around and goes, "Yeah, she said that all the time, and look at me, I'm fat." And she told me I was fat.
I know.
I said, but that's a generation thing. You can say things about your grandchildren or to your grandchildren that you're not going to say to your own children.
I think this is just different of the. I think it's, but that's
Well,
a lot of.
say that's the way it was.
Yeah, I think the message is like, don't, if you want, so at some point, if you want people in your life, you gotta leave the but out.
Yeah,
Just I love you and I'm proud of you. Not
yeah,
but your weight
but
is concerning.
but yeah,
But I don't know how you got that job. But you know what I mean? Like, just leave that part. You can think of it. You don't have to. That's why boundaries are helpful. You don't have to say all the mean fucking things in your head.
that's right. And just forget the word but.
Yeah, just
I
get
think
rid of the
that's a
buts.
smart thing. Get rid of the buts. Get rid of the buts.
I know, but it's all like, do you see how, like, it's all just generational stuff. Like, that's why I love shamanism, because it helps make sense of it. And
Yeah,
I learned from my past life stuff that I have just this whole pattern of victim mentality. So that's why I experience everything so much worse than it really was. Like, you weren't really doing anything that bad ever. I just felt it in such a way because of my own trauma from past life stuff. And that's why Andy doesn't feel it like that because he's really not, it's not a thing
No,
for him.
no,
You
no.
know, it's,
Hey, Steve O'Ketty died. You remember the O'Kettys? Paul O'Ketty, Steve O'Ketty.
yeah, but I don't know who Steve was. He at my age or the
I think
dad?
no, no. This is Paul's middle
Yeah, I do
brother.
remember. Yeah.
He died this
Okay.
week.
I'm
I don't
sorry.
know, but
I don't,
Andy called me to tell me that.
that's
Well,
sad.
that's losing a child. It's going back to your losing a child,
Yeah,
abandoning.
it is. That's
Yeah,
not our family, but
for
yes.
poor Pam. Well, I know.
This is a great, thank you for telling me someone died.
Yeah, someone died. Well, I just thought maybe you knew him.
No, I
You
mean,
probably did, but you just don't remember.
we're in our 40s now. People
Yeah,
start going. That
yeah,
happens. Like,
yeah.
we're
I
not,
don't know. I don't know what happened to him. So,
I know. Oh, so do
what are
you
you going to
still,
do with this now? Are you going to?
I'm going to put it on a pot where podcasts go. They'll hear us, but not see us. Yeah. What, so now do you still understand what I do or
I
no for
understand
work?
what you do now. Yes, I do.
I did not say anything to help you understand. You're just saying
Yes, you
that.
did. No, 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 no,
Well,
no,
that
no.
was part of the work, the ancestral stuff. I just thought it was
I think that
interesting.
the journey, the thing where where you were seeing ancestor things, that's interesting to me. I still think with the one-on-ones, you tell them just whatever whatever they want to hear. But I mean, that's just me. You may have some, yes, I can see that she will be back to you on June 14th
I hate you. Is
at 2.
mother. Thank you.
I understand.
No, the biggest thing I do is people want to know if their exes are coming back, and I say
Yeah,
don't fucking text them. I swear at people,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
hate swearing.
I do,
You
but I
find
can
it
see where
crass.
sometimes you need to have that blunt statement. I know when I was first saw my attorney for my divorce, the first thing my attorney said to me was, he does not like you. He will never like you. You
Mm,
have to filter out. You're going to hear crap that he says and things that he does and what the attorney says. And you have to look at him like the enemy.
interesting.
It's true. I pass it on to a lot of people. I had to pass it on to someone this morning. One of my applied teachers friends is deciding if she wants a divorce or not on a husband that she's been cheated on for 10 years.
Yeah,
I said, what, there's nothing to think.
I know. Well, for
Hey, the
you,
locks. You
some
go to
of
the phone. Well, you don't have a phone book now, but I went to the phone book, and the first locksmith that started with an A, that's the one I called. And
I was just
they changed. That was done. Done.
mother. Yeah,
She's gonna do all this crap. I don't know what she's gonna do, but it's
that's
like,
you're an Aries sun and a Leo rising. Your astrology supports your movement on that, but yeah.
oh, is
She's
that why?
probably an air sign or a water sign, so she's just. I would just be sitting around like I don't know. Like I didn't leave for 13 years. I don't know what I want to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Yeah,
See, it's funny that Marie thought of me only because this couple had been together for 16 years. Like Jim and I had been together for 30 years. And
yeah,
'cause we wanted to make sure it was
yeah.
that we were good for each other.
After 30 years, you
After
knew
30 years, we figured
you
we
can
could
get
get married.
married. It's safe.
So we've
Yeah,
been married for what, 4 or 5? They've been married for 6.
yeah.
I'm sure. I said, before you know. She knew something way
You have
back.
to trust your
Yeah,
intuition. Yeah,
yeah. You know, but you don't. You as a wife, you don't want to. Nope, nope. It's okay. I am crazy. Yep, like he says I am. Yep, you're just. Oh, that's crazy. Can't tell you how many times he told me that. Oh yeah, it's just crazy.
see,
No,
people come to you for random relationship stuff
all
all
the
the time.
time.
Well, you're a
All the
Libra
time.
moon. Yeah.
That why?
Yeah, your Aries Sun, Leo rising, Libra Moon. It's interesting, but yeah, I can't tell you how many people that I go like the girl that did your facials that I go to. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, your mother changed my life with this thing. She like people that know you are randomly just saying. I think it's so. I mean, our stories help people. That's all I do.
Do it's just life stories.
That's all I do too.
I guess I've been. I don't know. I don't know. I just give them my experience.
You know how when like it just happened with us, when somebody says something and it reminds you of a story. So for me, I know with my clients that when that happens, that story, that experience that I lived, me telling them is meant to help them with their own
Yeah.
journey. And
Yeah.
so that's really all I do. And I can't tell, and it's just what people come to me for. It's what yeah, that's what I do for work. Isn't that crazy? That's why we're doing the podcast now, because somebody might listen to this and it might help them with something. I don't know, or won't. But I've learned too, and I'll say, not from a place of ego, but um, I don't know why I do any of this. I like even this podcast. People want me to do it, so I'll do it. I don't understand what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm going to get this onto Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I just bought this headset and microphone. I do what the people ask me, and it seems to be profitable. You know, so and like I'm not swimming in it, but I can pay the bills with my nonsense instead of having to put on
Yeah.
pants every day. So but what I've learned is, you know, a year and a half later, I have clients who you never know what someone's going through on the day that they find you. And I've already heard things about, I had one of the girls that was on my live. I go live on TikTok. I don't know if I told you remember I skipped a lot of the holidays because I said, I just got to go live on TikTok. I feel like people need me because it's a sad time for
yeah.
people who don't have people. So I was on live every holiday, and we had our whole group, and we were silly and, you know, whatever. And I make money off of doing tarot on them too. But anyway, a year later, she just shared on an Insta reel, she shared her story for mental health awareness. She had actively planned to kill herself on New Year's Eve in December. And she ended up not, but it was a whole litany of things that came together for her. One of which she was taking my classes, you know, on shadow work, and that was part of her journey. And then just being in the lives and having people to talk to and having that sense of community.
Isn't that something?
I had no idea. And I'm like, but you know, here I am just showing up. I love you so much. You're doing so good to strangers all day. I don't know. They might not be doing good. I don't.
I couldn't do it.
But it's real. It's how it's.
Brutally honest. It's like, you're weird, I'd say.
But I'm not judgmental like you. I really am not. And you know that. I do love everyone, and I see the best in everyone. So I get what a great way for me to use my time. But yeah, that's why I like this work, because you don't know. Honestly, I may look like an asshole, and everyone's like, "Why is she doing that?" I don't care if 5 million people hate me. If one person like can improve their life because of one little weird thing I share, I think it's worth it. I think,
and it's happened, right? It's happened
yes, it's already happened. Remember when I was little, it makes me, this is so sappy, but remember my favorite book, it's right over there, is Miss Rumphius. That's the one.
Yes, the purple flowers.
So because it said in the end, like, one of the things you do before you die is you find a way to make the world more beautiful.
Well, there you go.
And I found my thing. And as silly as it is, I just feel very fortunate, you know?
You're lucky. You're very lucky. You got to do what you love, you know? I love being a nurse. I mean, I knew that. I couldn't have been like my brother, who went to work for how many years, hating every day he worked for the state of Wisconsin. Hating.
Yeah,
and that was reflected. That was reflected in his coworkers, because I don't know, Pam Hornets talked to some people who worked with him, and he had terrible anger issues up there. Terrible.
Well, I mean, there's his experience and theirs, though. I think that's, even he loves his life that he has now. And so wherever the means you used to get there, like, he was able to retire early and go live in Hawaii, and that's all he wanted to do. So he's living in beauty now, you know?
He's moving back to Florida.
Oh, well.
Building a house next door to the house that he sold.
Well, how about we frame it as he's chasing happiness, right?
There you go. He's chasing happiness. Yes, yes.
All right.
He doesn't want to be in a condo anymore because he's not in control. He doesn't want any association telling him what to do. So
makes sense.
Back. All right.
I got to go get Rad from school, but I love you. Thank you for being my first podcast interview.
Yes. You can invite me back anytime.
I will, Mother. We'll have you interview other people, maybe, about their lives.
If I go viral, I want to know.
Okay.
All right. Say hi to Rad.
All right. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.